Hey, this is John with FixYourDirtBike.com, and this is how to service the bottom end on your 1997 through 2001 Honda CR250. This is a long-form re-edit of separate service videos I made years ago, so you can see the entire process start to finish without jumping between videos. If you want to see each service done separately, I still have those videos up, and they are linked below. The most important thing when servicing your crankcase is cleanliness and organization. The easiest way to keep your parts clean and organized is to wrap each component in a towel when not working on them. When you do work on them, work over the towel. This protects the parts from the work surface and the work surface from the parts. You also have the added bonus of hardware not bouncing away when dropped. You can also keep your area free of dust and debris with frequent sweeping. You want to keep your case elevated when splitting and joining, so keep plenty of blocks handy. There are two special tools you will need when rebuilding the bottom end of your dirt bike. The first is a case splitter. This splitter from Tusk comes with two stud sizes, but it does not come with washers. I highly recommend adding washers to this kit to place between the nuts and the crankcase. The second tool you will need is a crankshaft puller. The crankshaft needs to be pressed into the case from both sides to join the cases, and a hammer will not work. The puller is also the perfect way to install your main bearing seals flush with the case. Both these tools cost around $70. Do not try to make your own or get by without them. Whatever you break using DIY tools will cost way more than just buying the right tool to begin with. Lastly, your most important tool is a sturdy work surface with plenty of space. Hey, this is John with FixYourDirtBike.com, and this is how to rebuild the crankcase on your 1997 through 2001 Honda CR250. As always, I have the parts and tools you need listed below. I've broken this service into 4 videos, plus a tools and prep video, so it's as easy to follow as possible. You can find those links below. You have 3 bolts attaching the bottom end to the frame, 2 mounting bolts, and the swing arm pivot shaft. Start by removing the swing arm pivot shaft first, because I have never had one come out easy. You may find yourself with a seized shaft. The only thing you can do is hose it down with anti-seize, then wait, then hit the bolt with the largest hammer you have, then repeat as necessary. You will need a new pivot bolt, but they don't cost much. Remove the 2 lower mounting bolts and keep track of their direction for install. Remove the engine from the frame. The swing arm may be resting on the rear of the case, so lift the front end first and give it a jiggle. But do not lift the case by the crankshaft like this impatient idiot. With the case removed, clean and inspect the frame. Lay your crankcase on your blocks with the left side facing up. Loosen the 11 case bolts in a crisscross pattern, 1/4 turn at a time until they're all loose. The crankcase bolts vary in length, so Bob Ross an outline of the case on cardboard or styrofoam and place your bolts accordingly. Assemble your crankcase splitter and attach it to the case. Remember to keep the splitter parallel to the case. Begin tightening the splitter nut. After every turn, firmly tap the case seam with a rubber mallet. Make sure to frequently check the case gap. If the case is separating unevenly, back out the splitter nut to remove pressure from the case. I had to tap aggressively on the front of this case where a dowel had seized. With the cases separated, remove the 2 alignment dowels, O-ring, and gasket material. Take every precaution you can when handling the transmission. Keep it oiled, wrapped, and clean at all times. Remove the 2 shift fork shafts, followed by the shift drum and shift forks. Remove the main shaft and counter shaft as a unit, keeping the gears meshed. Wrap the assemblies in a towel and set aside. Flip the right crankcase so the outside is facing up and place a layer of towels underneath the crankshaft. Attach the crankcase splitter with washers and press the crankshaft out of the case. Remember to keep the splitter parallel to the case. If your main shaft bearing comes out with the crankshaft, you will need to use your bearing splitter to remove the bearing from the shaft. The mating surfaces must be completely clean and smooth to ensure a tight seal. Start by removing all gasket material from the mating surface with parts cleaner and a plastic scraper. With the big pieces gone, move on to the tough spots with a flat razor, taking extra care not to gouge the surface. With all the gasket material gone, give the surface a once-over with a fine grit sanding disc. If you don't have a Dremel, 600 grit emery paper will work just fine. You want to have a smooth, almost mirror finish when you are done. This case has quite a few rough spots left over from casting. I have the equipment and the time, so I'm going to smooth those out while I have the opportunity. Remove the oil seals from the crankcase. Make sure to use a towel to protect the body. Thoroughly wash the crankcase with water and solvent, and thoroughly dry with compressed air, and then coat with a layer of WD-40. With your case clean and shiny, check for any unusual cracking or wear. Inspect the crankshaft for cracks, rubbing, pitting, and heat damage. Check the connecting rod for play. If something doesn't look right, take your crankshaft to a machine shop or dealership to check the runout and connecting rod radial clearance. This is a non-repairable crankshaft. That means if it's out of spec, you need to completely replace it. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you in step 2. Inspecting your transmission is not a hard job, but it does require cleanliness, organization, notes, and math. There are a lot of numbers to record and calculate, which would be very hard to follow in a video, so this video is going to be an overview of the transmission service. All the numbers and calculations will be in the full step-by-step guide on fixyourdirtbike.com. No matter what you find during your inspection, you will need 3 new snap rings, as the old ones will deform when you remove them. As you go, measure the inside diameter of the gears, and the inside and outside diameters of the bushings. Inspect every part for visible wear, like broken teeth, cracking, gouging, and pitting. If anything even looks damaged, you will need to replace the part. The main shaft is the larger of the 2 shafts. Disassemble the main shaft, transferring every part in order to a long screwdriver. The gear stack on the main shaft is oriented: washer, 2nd gear, washer, 4th gear and bushing, spline washer, snap ring, 3rd gear, snap ring, spline washer, 5th gear, and 1st gear is the countershaft. Inspect and measure each gear, washer, and bushing. Measure the main shaft diameter at 5th gear and inspect the splines, gears, and snap ring grooves. Record each measurement as you go. The countershaft is the shorter of the 2 shafts and is disassembled from both sides. Remove each side with a separate screwdriver, cleaning and measuring as you go. The countershaft gear stack on the left side is oriented: washer, 2nd gear and bushing, washer, 4th gear. The countershaft gear stack on the right side is oriented: washer, 1st gear and bushing, washer, 5th gear, snap ring, spline washer, 3rd gear, washer. Measure the countershaft at 1st, 2nd, and 3rd gear positions, and check the splines and snap ring grooves for damage. Record every measurement as you go. You will need to calculate the clearance between the gears and their bushings, and the bushings and the shaft. There are a lot of numbers to go over, which I demonstrate in the walkthrough on the website. Clean the shift drum, forks, and fork shafts. Measure each fork claw thickness, inside diameter, and guide pin. Measure the diameter of the long shift fork shaft at each end and the center point. Changing the bearings is very easy. All your time will go into preparing the cases. These bearings are an interference fit. This means the outside diameter of the bearings is slightly bigger than the inside diameter of the bore. The only way you can remove and install these bearings is by changing their sizes. Interference fit means you will need to freeze your new bearings to contract them and heat the case halves in the oven to expand the bores. Do not try to remove and install these bearings with a torch or force. The uneven temperature will compromise the metal and force will break it. When done right, the bearings will practically remove and install themselves. Before you take your cases to the oven, make sure you have all the bearings you need. For this crankcase, I am using a Hot Rods transmission bearing kit and OEM main bearings. Match your new bearings with the old ones. Keep the new ones separated by case side because you will install them one side at a time. The last thing to do before you bake your cases is to remove the screws and retainers in the left case and the bolts and retainers in the right case. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 180 degrees Celsius if you're fancy. Place your case half on your blocks, bearing side down, and place it in the oven for about 10 minutes. The case wall is thicker at the crank, meaning it will take the longest to heat up, so that is where you want to measure your temperature. The ideal temperature to work at is 250 degrees Fahrenheit or 120 degrees Celsius if you're nasty. The most accurate way to measure the temperature is with a laser thermometer, but if you don't have one, Flick some water on the case. If it sizzles and evaporates immediately, you should be good. Remove the case and tap the bearings. If they don't fall out with a few taps, return the case to the oven and wait another 5 minutes. After you remove the bearings, let the cases cool and clean the bearing bores with denatured alcohol. To install the new frozen bearings, reheat your case halves, then drop the bearings into place. If they don't sit flush or all the way, lightly tap them until they do. Repeat with the other half. After your cases cool down, install the retainers and screws on the left case and the retainers and bolts in the right case. While your crankcase is disassembled, consider changing the clutch lifter bearings. Removing these bearings can be a hassle because of their shape and placement. Normally, you can slide the bearings out with a pick, but I had to use a slide hammer for these. Install the bearings with the socket, then grease and install the new seal. Before you begin, double check all the mating surfaces and make sure to use new gaskets, O-rings, and dowels. Install the crankshaft on the right side first. Assemble your crankshaft puller and tighten the nut until the crankshaft is completely seated in the case. The crankshaft will rotate during install, so make sure your connecting rod stays straight. Flip the case and oil the bearings with 2-stroke oil. Mesh the transmission main shaft and counter shaft, make sure the washers are still on the ends of the gear stacks, and install them into the case. Install the shift forks. The center fork goes on the main shaft with the markings face down. The left fork goes on the top of the counter shaft, and the right goes on the bottom of the counter shaft. Install both forks with the markings facing up. Install the shift drum. Rotate the drum so it engages with the center fork pin. Align the fork and the case bore and install the short shift fork shaft. Repeat with the left and right forks. Check the transmission operation by turning the counter shaft and shift drum. The transmission may feel hard to shift, but remember that you are using your hand, not your foot, and the gears are meant to move side to side, not up and down. Install the breather tube into the left case and the block into the right case. Install your new dowels and lubricated O-ring. Place your gasket on the right case. Do not cut the top off yet. Apply 2-stroke oil to the left case bearings. Align the left case over the crankshaft and countershaft. Assemble your crank puller and begin joining the case halves. Work slowly and use a mallet when needed. Make sure to keep the case halves as even as possible. With the crankshaft installed and the cases mated, install the crank seals. When installing the crankshaft and countershaft bearing seals, you cannot drive them all the way to the bearing. You need to leave room between the bearing and the seal to allow lubrication to circulate. Drive the right crankcase seal and countershaft seals until they are 1 mm below the top of the bore, and drive the left crankshaft seal to 2 mm below the top of the bore. Pack every seal with grease and install them with the closed side out. You can use a combination of the crankshaft puller to install the seals flush and a large socket to seat them to the correct depth. Transfer your bolts from your holder back to the case. With the bolts in the correct place, apply thread locker. Hand tighten the bolts first, then begin tightening in a crisscross pattern, 1/2 turn at a time until tight. These bolts have no torque specifications, so use a 1/4-inch ratchet to tighten them firmly. Anything bigger and you risk stripping the case threads. Remove excess gasket material. Be careful not to let any gasket material enter the crankcase. Install the bottom end to the frame backside first. Install the 2 mounting bolts from the left side. Install the swing arm pivot shaft after you replace the swing arm bearings. Reassemble the external shift mechanism and double check your transmission. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments or on Facebook. Thanks for watching, and make sure to like and subscribe.